Hello, this is meteorologist Brad Warner from Region Weather Lab, your YouTube source for weather across the Dakotas and Minnesota. And here we are, we got through most of the winter with not a lot going on, and here we get into mid-March, and the Lions want to come on through. We're going to go into the middle of March like a lion, the way it looks. So as we get into Tuesday and on into Wednesday evening, you can see we've got a decent little jet stream that kind of pulls through our area. And that might allow just some flurries and some light snow to develop way out ahead of some of these two different storm systems that are going to be moving through our area. So ultimately by Wednesday, perhaps we could be getting some light snow in some of these areas where I've got encircled in the yellow. But it's really not until we see this little system dive down from the north and we've got this trop kind of dumbbelling around. And when this does, it increases the amount of wind at the mid and upper levels. We get another jet streak that develops. And when it does, as we get into late Thursday night and into Friday morning, that's really when some of the heavier snows, that first little round of snow wants to develop kind of from western North Dakota down across into southeastern parts of Minnesota. And that's just round one. We're actually going to expect a bigger storm to come into our region by this weekend. And what this little dumbbelling system does as it develops the stronger jet is it also holds back this little system that's coming onto the shore off the Pacific coast here and allows this to deepen just a little bit because it's kind of being held up by everything that's getting blocked up a little bit further to the east. So as we get a little bit into the weekend, we're getting into Sunday and Sunday afternoon. Again, we've got a pretty decent jet stream developing on the backside, allowing this low pressure system to develop and kick off and develop more snow across our region going into Saturday night, Sunday, and possibly lingering into Monday as well. So here you can see just a little bit going into Wednesday. You can see where some of that snow might develop kind of ahead of this first little batch of heavier snow that is expected to move through Thursday, more so Thursday night and into early Friday morning. But nevertheless, just kind of lingering light snow showers throughout the day on Wednesday, going on into Wednesday night, and actually could be fairly breezy down here across southwestern parts of South Dakota as well. And then once we get into more so, like I said, as we get later in the day, Thursday, and more so Thursday night, well, look at this. We've got a pretty decent little system, kind of some moderate to heavy snows that wants to develop across northwestern South Dakota, southwest North Dakota, and track to the east, southeast through the overnight hours and move into southern parts of Minnesota and perhaps bring a fair amount of snow within a quick period of time through the overnight hours Thursday night. Now, we shouldn't be seeing any kind of crazy strong kind of that northerly winds, but we might see some feeding out ahead of it, some strong southerly winds that will help aid in developing perhaps some of that moderate to maybe even a little few bands of heavy snowfall through the overnight hours. But nevertheless, we're not really looking at much in the way of the really strong winds. Some breezy conditions might blow the snow around, but at least I don't think at this point we're going to be looking at any type of like blizzard conditions. We might just see a brief period of some heavy snow move across some localized areas. Now, there's a couple of things I want to kind of point out when it comes to the next storm system that's looking like it's going to move through the region kind of mainly on Sunday. But what we're looking at is, look at these strong southerly winds out ahead of this system before it kind of pops out of the Rockies here. Really some strong southerly winds driving that warm air northward. But on the back side of it, not so much. Actually, the winds kind of track like this a little bit and maybe a little bit like this, but they're a little weaker on the backside of the storm system. And with these storm systems, when it draws up more warm air than it does cold air on the backside of this, they generally tend to move more from a west to east pattern. And you can see how some of this warm air here, look at these kind of a brownish reddish tones get pulled up into the further north, and the stronger winds are out ahead of this system, really drawing up the warm air ahead of it. But on the back side of it, the winds are kind of going this way. There's a little bit of cold air advection on the back side of it. So what I think is more likely, and what the models are kind of showing, is that instead of kind of ejecting out and moving northward and giving us that Colorado low, that big deep system that encompasses a large part of our area. It's going to move more in kind of a west to east type of pattern, at least to start off, as it moves out of the Rockies and into the plains in the Midwest. As we get into Sunday, you can see how that low kind of tracks initially kind of in through Kansas and moves into Iowa. And then eventually, perhaps there's a little more cold air that eventually is able to wrap in around on the backside of this once we get maybe more so into Monday. And that's really when it takes maybe a little bit more of a northerly pattern, but ultimately it kind of takes kind of a more of a southwest to a northeasterly type of pattern instead of that direct hook and moving right to the north. But the bad thing is the models, especially with this weekend storm, are just all over the place when it comes to how far north some of that snow will make it, where some of the freezing rain will be. I mean, ultimately, when it comes to this weekend storm, other than the models agreeing that something is coming, they're having a real hard time coming together on where exactly and how this is going to pan out. You know, I like to show you this, especially this far out, when we see the differences in the model and just where they're painting the most extreme areas of snowfall. Here's kind of that second system. Here's the European model, kind of pointing the pink areas and the red areas, anything basically above 6 inches within that region. The Canadian model, which is a little similar to that European model, fairly close within that southern parts of North Dakota across west central parts of Minnesota. And then you have the American model. And here's where I've got a little bit of a problem, is normally the American model isn't always that reliable. But the problem I'm having with this, as you can see where this track is way further south, the problem I'm having is that the American model has been more consistent run to run, whereas the other models have been kind of flopping around a little more. So the GFS is kind of holding fast and saying, nope, this is where it's going to be. And the other ones are going, it's here, it's here, it's here, it's here. And they're all over the place. So that's really why I'm having a hard time, especially reconciling that second storm going into the weekend. You can see the differences in the tracks. So ultimately, I guess at this point, this early on, a good solution is just to kind of combine them and say, I guess somewhere within this region in here probably has the best chance for seeing some snowfall. And I'll show you a little bit better graphic for that in just a bit. Oh, and let's not forget the amount of freezing rain or drizzle possible with these storm systems. Yeah, again, the model's not really agreeing very well. The European model, the most aggressive with some really, really good freezing rain across the south. But again, way too early to say for sure. So kind of the first graphic here is showing the most likely track for the moderate to heavy snowfall from Wednesday night through Thursday night. Now, most of this really ultimately is going to happen late Thursday in through Thursday night is where most of this heavier stuff will fall. And I think the best chance really is going to be kind of within this region right in through here that has the possibility of seeing that moderate to heavy snowfall. But nevertheless, that's kind of the main area where we're looking for the snowfall with this first system. And we're kind of looking in the 3 to 6 inch range, maybe 7 inch range in some of these localized areas that could see some of that moderate to heavy snow here and there. It just depends on where exactly that those little bands set up. But that's kind of what we're looking at for the range and kind of where the best chance is, where the highest probability of some of the higher snowfalls will be. Now, not to mention that some of these areas a little bit further to the north, a little bit further to the south could get some snow out of this as well. But and nevertheless, this area in kind of a blue purple color there has got the best chance. Now for the second storm system, I'm kind of moving my ugly head out of the way for this one so you can get a little better look. But for now, this area in red, so just east of Pierre, including Aberdeen and Watertown and Brookings, on over to Morris and up through Alexandria and Fergus Falls, and including Wahpeton as well. Kind of you areas in here, that's the best chance for seeing at least a good amount of snowfall. Real early outlook on this, but you're kind of the bullseye right now the way things look for this second storm system. And then secondary areas is everybody here in the yellow. including Pierre and Sioux Falls and the Twin Cities, Rochester, Duluth, Bismarck, Dickinson as well. So we'll have to keep an eye out for your area. And there's a possibility some of this could extend a little bit up here. And it's just right now, it's just way too early to tell. But ultimately, we're kind of watching this area for the most part when it comes to the second storm system. So now keep this in mind, because now you've got two different storm systems kind of affecting the same region in through here. And when it's all said and done, some areas across northern parts of South Dakota, if it lines up right, could see upwards of 12 inches of snow or more if things, like I said, if everything kind of lines up the way it's looking right now. Now, again, the wind's a little stronger on the front side of this, as we're going to be seeing some stronger southeasterly winds. It's really not until we get later into Monday and Monday night when perhaps we see a little bit stronger winds on the backside of this, more northerly winds gusting 30, 35 miles per hour, perhaps a little more even. And as I said, that's kind of when this system kind of takes a little bit more of a northerly track, as it's able to pull in a little more cold air on the backside of this. But nevertheless, right now, it's not looking like this huge blizzardy, 50, 60 mile per hour windstorm on top of it. It's more the concern. The early concern is the amount of snow. And so that's kind of the look of what we've got for the week ahead. I'll try to make sure to update you as best I can. Guys, I appreciate all the comments I've received on the last video. That made me feel really good and just kind of made me feel a little more at ease on where some of this is going, at least in the near term of things. But with this little bit larger storm, I'll try to make sure and update you more and do another video perhaps too, and get some stuff out on social media as well. So make sure you're watching out. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel. And if you haven't done so, share this channel so more people can see. Please look at all the comments from the last video. There's so many nice things out there that people have said. And just if you read that, I promise you're going to want to share this channel even more and get the word out there. That would mean a lot to me. All right, everybody, for Region Weather Live, I am meteorologist Brad Warner. Everybody have a good day.